we're all set. Okay, so why don't you tell everybody your name?
I'm Ben.
And Ben, how old are you?
I'm 13 years old.
Excellent. And where do you live?
I live in Kings Park, New York.
Amazing. I live in Florida, so I'm very glad to meet you.
Thanks.
So we talked before about asking you some questions about when you were before you knew how to talk. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Uh-huh.
All right, cool. So Ben, do you remember what it was like before you knew how to talk and use words?
It was difficult and frustrating because people did not know what I wanted.
Hmm. And so how did you try to communicate what you wanted when you didn't have words?
My mom just knew.
Well, that's kind of what happens, isn't it? You're really lucky that your mom just knew what was going on. But then what happened was sometimes she didn't know, right?
Uh-huh.
And then that was when it was frustrating, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, what do you think it was that helped you learn how to say words?
Um, Watching TV helped me, and
Okay.
listening to music helped me, and playing music helped me, and talking to my mom helped me.
Okay. That's great.
And the
Tell
swing
me how,
helped me.
and the swing helped you. Your mom told me that you really like to move. And when you move, it's easier for you to talk.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What kind of moving do you like to do when you talk?
Walking, running, biking.
Really? Swinging even?
Uh-huh.
All right, cool. And so now that you, excuse me, now that you know how to talk, what kinds of things do you like to talk about?
I like to talk about what we watch on the Food Network together and the supermarket business I'm owning when I graduate from college.
You're going to own a supermarket business?
Yes!
That is amazing. What kind of a supermarket business? What kind of stuff do you want to sell there?
Produce, groceries, dairy products, everyday
Really?
essentials, fresh meats, frozen foods, deli items, fresh seafood, bakery items. Um,
So a comprehensive you want to have a whole comprehensive facility where you can get all kinds of food. That's very good. What made you like to do that? What makes you want to be a grocery store owner?
some people don't. Some towns don't have a grocery store
Don't have a grocery store? You mean like close to their house?
in the town and close to their house.
Okay. So you want to have grocery stores for people that are close to their house.
Yes, and
That's a great
that's why
idea.
there's going to be more than one location, and there's going to be a corporate office.
Wow, that is amazing, Ben. Do you know what your store is going to be called?
It's called Great American Supermarket.
All right, everybody, you heard it here first. Ben is telling you Great American Supermarket is in your future, in your neighborhood with multiple locations. I love it. All right, so now I want to talk about your book, Ben. Can you tell me about what is the title of your book?
It's called Maybe Autism is My Superpower.
Perfect. And what's your book about?
It's about it's about my autism brain, eyes, and ears and how they're special.
All right. And I know that autism is your superpower. Can you tell everybody what your exact superpower is?
What? How I see, how I hear.
Right. And what's special about how you hear?
It's how,
So let
music.
me ask, music. I was gonna say it all has to do with music, and I remember that you were. I saw a video about you listening to a song on the radio and then playing it on the piano. How did you learn how to play the piano?
We had a keyboard.
Okay. And how did you learn how to play the notes, the right notes on the keyboard?
The lights.
The lights. So did you have lessons with the keyboard?
No.
No. You just listened to the song and pushed the right notes, and you just kind of knew how to do it? Ah, that I think is a remarkable superpower, because some people take years and years and years to learn how to play the keyboard. And you did it right away as soon as you heard it. I think that's very super. All right. So mom told me that she homeschools you, that you learn at home from mom. What's your favorite way to learn lessons? Like if you learn new things, what's your favorite way to learn?
Brain pop.
Brain pop, really? What kinds of stuff do you learn on brain pop?
Health and science and math and social studies and and arts and music and tech.
Wow, tons of stuff. Brain Pop is an amazing resource. Everybody out there, if you want to learn stuff, go to Brain Pop. And so when you watch a Brain Pop video, Ben, what do you do? You watch the Brain Pop video and then do you write about it or talk about it?
Then I take notes.
You take notes, and then what do you do with those notes?
It's notes so I can remember the Brain Pop video.
Okay. And then, so you watch a video and there's questions about the video. And then how do you do when you take those quizzes? Do they score them? They give you a score?
Yes, they do.
Really? And how do you score usually when you take those Brain Pop scores?
What?
What kind of score do you get usually?
Usually I get a 90, 80, or 100, or 70, or...
Okay. Well, it all depends on how much you were paying attention, right? I suppose. But I guess the reason I asked you that question is because sometimes kids, when they learn to talk, they learn to say words and they learn to just listen and say and imitate things. But I wanted to show everybody that you, not only do you watch and listen to words, but you understand and can even answer questions about those things that you learn on the Brain Pop. So congratulations for all that fabulous learning. It's not just going in there, it's going in there and doing work and you're learning stuff. So that's really good. I'm super proud of you, Ben. And do you have a page on Facebook that people could visit to learn more about you? And what's it called?
Yes, it's called Maybe Autism is My Superpower.
All right, Maybe Autism is My Superpower, everybody. If you want to learn more about Ben, then you can definitely check out his page on Facebook, and that would be amazing, so he can learn more about it. Okay, Ben, thank you so much for talking to us today. Can you let Mom have the other side? Can you let the other side have her the other side? And I'll see you next time, okay?
Goodbye.
Bye, Ben. All right, so that was so great. Thank you so much. This is This is Angela, everybody. Angela's Ben's mom.
Hello.
And so we just kind of bumped into each other in Facebook land, of interesting and sharing information. And I was so excited to learn about your project with Ben.
Yes, it's very exciting.
His book. So and I just, and we, after we learned about the project, we talked about your journey with Ben and how you were able to get him to this point, and
Shoot.
hopefully to owning a grocery store someday.
Yes, that
right?
seems to be the plan. That's been the plan for a long time now. I believe him when he says it, because it's something he's continuously talking about. So I don't get a discount, apparently. I ask for a discount, and I'm not eligible.
Hardcore business.
Yeah, that's it.
Bummer, you know. You'll have to show up on Senior Citizen Day or something, and maybe get, you know, the same discount everybody else gets.
That's right.
Oh, wow. Okay. You know, brother, what, you know, so it's so, that's why I loved our conversation the other day, and I loved meeting Ben, because, you know, you guys have been through it. You know, he's 13.
Yes.
And, you know, it wasn't always this fun, I'm sure, you know, as
Right.
we talked about yesterday.
Right.
And I'm sure every day is not as fun as others, because that's just kind of how it goes when you have kids that have unpredictable energy.
That's right.
So what I kind of was hoping was that maybe we could talk just a little bit, and you could share with the moms about that transition, because when I was asking Ben about his sort of journey in talking, his solution to getting what he needed before he had words literally was, mom knows.
Yes, mom just knows.
Right?
Yes, yeah.
And so, you know, I thought that was incredibly insightful to hear, because, you know, that's the struggle that you and every other mom of a limited pre-verbal child has. Your child literally is depending on you.
Yes.
To
yes.
read their mind,
Yep.
to know
yes,
what
basically.
they want. And when you realize that you couldn't read his mind because it's too vast and amazing.
There's a lot in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, and I'm sure until he started talking, and it always happens with families in my program, whenever they start talking, you realize how much is in there.
Yeah, there's
oh my
a
goodness.
lot in there. Yes, yes.
You know, but you didn't know that before he was verbal.
No, we called him Silent Bob. That was the nickname, Silent Bob. He just didn't have any language at all. You don't know what they're, you don't know how deep their thoughts really are. You just think even if they have a simple word, they're simple-minded, and they're far from simple-minded. Yeah. It's amazing.
But you as a mom knew different, though. You know, you can see how other people look at a nonverbal child, especially a nonverbal child who likes to move, and they see limited intelligence.
Yes.
You know, automatically assume that limited intelligence. And when it's completely the opposite, it's like, you know, your boy's smarter than the average
It's so completely opposite of that. It really, really is. And there were little signs, you know, early on with him that I would see that led me to believe, wait, there's more going on here.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So, I mean, you had to make a shift. Obviously, something happened, right?
Yes.
Because here you have, you know, verbose Ben, you know,
yes.
at some point.
Yes.
You know, before he started, so, you know, before he was talking and, you know, you knew that you figured out first there was more in there than, you know, is able to come out. So, what did you do to make a shift? Like, what did you do to get him thinking about wanting to try to talk?
Basically, I think the real turning point for me was noticing certain, what they would call, I guess, interfering behaviors. As you know, they're perceived as interfering behaviors, like stimming and moving and the self-talking. That often are trying to be limited with children with autism, or suppressed in a way, because I guess it's not the typical behavior. You see it as interfering with focus. We see it, the society sees it as interfering with focus and concentration, which I guess there's a time and a place for that. But in the home, I would see it as a means of him trying to produce speech. I would see the self-talk as a way of his speech pathways, you know, developing. And I would see when he was on a swing, more speech production. And also when he was finally of age where speech was starting, it came with a lot of flapping, and he still does it, a lot of flapping and moving and stimming. But that movement is doing something to help him. So I took a lot of that out of programs that we had. I didn't want to restrict certain behaviors, especially in the home. I did more of like a floor time approach. I joined his self-talk a lot. Even though it seems like they're talking about subjects that are so off and repetitive, maybe a TV show over and over and over again, the echolalia, I would actually join in on it. And even though at first there was no reciprocal conversation at all with that, I would just comment and constantly talk about things that he was interested in his world, that I could tell he was interested in talking about. So
home. When you engage in the stuff that you know, because you're his mom and you know what he likes and you know what he's into and you kind of know what he's thinking, you don't know every word and you don't know whatever, but you're already used to knowing what he thinks because he relied on you to do that. And I talk about it as being telepathy or woo-woo stuff or whatever. I mean, you know, you can call it what you want, but parents know. I mean,
you do.
No matter what you call it.
You have a strong instinct. You do. You know better than any therapist that can help your child. You do. And it's about trusting that instinct too. You know.
Right. And so I think that was it. So when you were able to teach Ben how to say the words he wanted to say, that's when he was like, dude, these words work for me. These are the words I like. These are the words I want to say. And then did he make a shift? Like, did you notice a significant like aha moment where he was like, this is how I want to use words? Or was it a real long process? How did it go?
I'd say it was, he only had about a single word at a time, maybe a handful of words that he at the typical age, and then that just stopped. No further speech developed. And even when he was in kindergarten, he was very, very, very quiet. I wouldn't say until he was about 7 did he start to string along maybe 3 words on his own, you know, independently, like just naturally, where it started to come together. And from there, it just picked up and picked up. And then once that initial beginning of that happened, then it started to pick up speed. And what I also noticed, and I had to remind myself that this is okay also, was because, you know, the toddlers are talking, the typical toddlers talking at 2 and 3 years old. So when he finally had the speech that he was coming out with on his own, there was almost like an immaturity to it, if that makes sense. And for his age, the topics, the language of choice, that type of thing, and not getting upset about that either, reminding myself, like, he hasn't used the language that has been in him for all of these years. So it was about him catching up to that. And as time came on more and more, he would develop more mature topics of conversation that he was interested in, and it kind of has been growing from there. Every Brain Pop video he's watched or listened to, he's memorized. He has a keen memorization ability, so it's all in there. And now if you ask a simple question about smoking a cigarette or health, he will follow that with about 100 random health facts, but they're on topic, and it's his interest, and it's a lot of speech. And again, it's always been about me joining what he's interested in talking about. And now we can flip it where it's like, okay, now we could talk a little bit about what other people want to talk about. And he can still carry on that conversation. Still not as easily as his own topics of interest, but it's there. He has a lot of speech now, and it's a wonderful thing to see develop over time. Yeah. I saw it very early on. Some characteristics in Ben that I was not particularly fond of, which was some of that rote kind of speech that was developing from his early on therapy that just seemed very robotic to me. And even in the middle of speech, he would say, clap hands, little things that he was learning to do. And I understand the goals there, but I also saw his reading ability at a very early age. Even though he wasn't speaking, wherever we were, when we were out, he'd read signs. And I didn't know if he even understood them, because I couldn't, if I asked him a question about the sign, there was no, conversation.
Verbal,
but
yeah, you can't
there was
test
nothing.
it, exactly.
I had no idea that if he knew what he was reading, but he was able to put the letters together and form the words appropriately. He'd read the whole deli section at the grocery store. But did he know what it mean? I don't know. So I saw these little signs, and I decided that there's something there. And because everything was developing in a very rote kind of fashion, I decided to trust, I guess, my instinct. He really liked music. Music helped him a lot, relaxed him. He was able to use his ear. He had a very special ear. So I went a lot with music and his interests, and I let go of a lot of the strict types of therapies. It was just my instinct to keep him moving, because I would see speech more on a swing in the backyard than I would anywhere else, or after playing the piano than I would during any therapy session. So I've decided to just kind of take more of that natural approach for a while, and floor time, and just let it kind of develop naturally, because there were definitely signs that there was something trying to develop on its own that maybe just needed a little more patience and time and encouragement. I'm not saying don't give your child therapy.
Right.
I talk to him all the time. And even with the therapist coming in at that point, and we just changed our style and our approach to a little bit more of a laxed approach, and constantly talking about what he was doing, putting him on a swing during the therapy, letting him play the piano during his therapy, that type of thing. So
yeah. And did you think that there was some anxiety building as a result of the restriction?
He was definitely an anxious kid. I couldn't watch that part of it. He would cry hysterically when therapists would walk in the house. He would cling to me. He became very, very attached, where he was not an attached child. It was stressing him, and then in turn it stressed me. And when I saw the level of stress, I started to wonder, how is that going to be productive when you're trying to naturally be relaxed?
It isn't fun. It isn't fun.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I felt like, there's think of us when we're stressed and we're trying to give a speech or a talk, right? It's stifling. It's nerve-wracking. Even today, when he's stressed or sick, speech will slow down. He'll label it. He'll tell me he's not talking, and he'll explain it a little more to me. He calls it non-social syndrome. And he says, for a little bit of time, he says, I need to have non-social syndrome for a little while. And I understand it's because he's stressed, and I can go back in the day when he was stressed with
how amazing that he can communicate that.
He can now. Now he can.
I mean, when he and see that, I'm so glad you shared that, Angela, because there are many, many parents who watch my page who talk about the fact that their kids are a mess. They are worried and anxious and freaking out, and they're chewing on their clothes, and they're biting their fingers and picking and pulling their hair out and all of these things. And they're not realizing that it could be the intervention, the rigidity of the intervention that they have, that could be causing this stress in their kids.
Marcy,
you saw it decrease when you change. I mean, you saw it go away.
And it was not an easy thing for me to do. There's a lot of parents fighting for 20, 40 hours of therapy early on for their child. They're fighting the insurance companies, and I'm here seeing the more hours are coming in, the more stressed he's becoming. And I remember thinking, what are people going to think of me? I want to reduce these hours down. And what kind of, what is that going to do as far as perception of other people? But you have to let go of that. And I do remember calling the county representative on our case and saying, I'm noticing the stress in my child, and I want a reduction in hours. And she actually applauded me and said, I give you a lot of credit as a parent for noticing that. And then
I do too.
And going forward. But that was not easy. And I think if I learned anything, it's trusting your instinct. Every child's different. And I'm not saying a reduction in hours is the way to go for every child. Just for my child, the stress level was so bad. that
yeah, it's all about you noticing in your child. Like if your child is happy and thrilled to go to therapy and you feel like they're benefiting and getting stuff from it, go.
And now it's different. Now he enjoys them. He enjoys the conversations with them. He gets more out of it now than ever before. And we still have it. We still use therapists in the house, but it's how we're using them, and how we're using them in a productive way that allows for the speech without the level of stress where now you're just they become resistant, and it's just not productive. For him it was not. So we made a change, and not every therapist was happy about it. I lost some therapists on our case, but then I gained new ones who were interested in that different type of approach. And it all,
and I think that
worked out.
Exactly. So Angela, I thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Sharing all of this and sharing Ben with us. And I want everybody to go follow his page, like his page. Everybody who watches this,
please like his page.
Yeah, because when the book is published, you are definitely going to want to read it. Tell us about the format really quick.
So it's a few months out, so we're really excited. And what happened is Ben's homeschooled, and one day he was not feeling well, so he didn't really want to do much work. And I asked him if he would just write something, which we were told back in the day this child would never be able to write. We were going to just have an iPad. So it's awesome that he's writing, but he was resistant. And I said, well, do you want to write about the superhero movie? We saw a Marvel movie recently. And then he smiled and he's like, yeah, maybe autism, maybe I'm a superhero. That's what he said. And so I wrote on a piece of paper, how do you think you are a superhero? And what came out from that was maybe autism is my superpower. And he wrote so much about his ears and how he hears things in music with pitches, and how he can remember things. And that led me to ask him more questions, just as a mom to a child. And then what was coming out, I was like, oh, wow, this has to be shared, because there's so many abilities within these children. And it's really all about trying to help make a shift to perceiving these children as abled and gifted in ways that if we could focus on these gifts and these strengths, what a shift in the world we would have. Because a lot of the focus is that they're not typical and they're disabled children, but they are our future, and their gifts and their strengths are above a lot of what we can do. So it's really about getting that message out there and perceiving them as having superpowers. And we could really use their superpowers in this world, because
I'm telling you what, I agree. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that they are atypical, but in the best way ever, in a way that we just need to learn more about, that we want to know, because I want to be more like Ben.
Yes.
And what is also, not a coincidence, as Angela and I both understand, is that, we're both intuitive.
Yes.
And I don't know, Angela, if you've always been intuitive. I think I have always been, but I didn't realize it until I needed it to work and help. And I'm sure your intuitive self came out a lot with Ben's help.
Oh yeah, he's my teacher for sure. He's all these children are our teachers, and I just feel like they're vibing above all of us. They're just
I love it. I love to call them spirit kids, because their spirit, they're so connected with spirit, and their spirit is so wonderful and warm, and it never is bad. It never is ill-fated.
No. There's no malintent.
No, never. No malintent. There's just, they don't understand how to be not kind. And, they don't understand why things happen even sometimes that aren't kind.
Right. They're very unconditional, and they teach us the same. So within it all. So I hope everyone will follow his page, and he's posting videos, and he's working on getting the message out himself in his own way. So that would mean a lot. And what you're doing is awesome too, Marcy. So thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. So if you are a parent and you want to, connect with Ben, you can follow Ben's page. I'll make sure I put the link in the description on the replay. And we'll make sure that you check it out. And if you're interested in learning how to do what Angela did, I happen to be the kind of person that teaches parents how to figure it out, get it together.
Yeah,
So,
it's a never-ending journey. You're on it. You're on it with them, and it's all good. The ups and the downs. Yeah.
Yeah. If it isn't fun, it isn't fun, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks again, Angela. And thanks again, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.